Do you ever notice how certain stories, they just don't disappear? They get buried. 1 minute, the world is locked in on the Epstein files. Millions of pages, names, networks, and questions nobody can quite answer. Then suddenly everything shifts, the narrative changes. A war breaks out, headlines change, attention moves. Now, maybe it's just how the world works. It is a mysterious place. Or maybe, just maybe, we're looking at pieces of the same puzzle, but from different angles. Because when you start digging into these files, you just don't see individuals. You start to see patterns, financial networks, international connections, even reported connections from Epstein reaching back to the Middle East, spanning decades. And at the same time, we have a global conflict unfolding with massive, massive geopolitical stakes, energy, power, influence. So the question isn't just what's happening. It's whether these are truly separate stories or events. You have to ask yourself, is there something deeper, something structural that connects power, influence, and control across both? It's not proven. It's not confirmed, but it's enough to make you wonder. And we're going to get into that wonderment tonight. I have a very, very special guest for us who is an authority on the areas that I want to cover. Now, I have been using, and my regular listeners know this, probably ad nauseum, that for the last 2.5 years since I met Tim James in Acapulco in 2004, I've been using chemical-free body products, specifically Green 85. And I've just recently got my Water Hero from him. And I don't know what Tim does with his products, but they work. They really do work. And that's why after a couple of years, to help cover the cost of the show, I mean, it's growing, and with the growth comes cost, and I pay for this out of my own dime. So I'm looking for help on that. I reached out to him, and I sponsored with Chemical Free Body. He has products that work. If you want products that will work, that will make you healthy, that will heal things inside of you, then go to chemicalfreebody.com/NatureBoy and use the promo code NatureBoy at checkout. Once again, that's chemicalfreebody.com/NatureBoy. You're going to get some good products. You're going to save some money out the door. And the show gets a little bit of something out of that to help cover the costs. Now, this show just doesn't happen by itself. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It is from the community. And boy, I have to say, what a great community. All of my supporters out there, my producers, everybody that shows up on Friday night and joins in the 3 chats I have, the savages I love so much. I just want to thank you. I want to thank people down the line that may be listening to this on the audio podcast, or if you're watching this down the road on Rumble or BitChute. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're getting value out of it. To me, it's a pleasure. I do this as an act of love. Of course, it's not for money. And finally, I want to give a special shout out to Ray from Down Under, producer extraordinaire, for being able to join me tonight in producing this show. He makes my job a whole lot easier. So Ray, thank you for joining us. So tonight we have William Ramsey. He's an attorney, historian, author, and filmmaker. And he's built a body of work digging into true crime, occult history, and the intersections of power that most never look twice at. He's the host of William Ramsey Investigates, of which I am a regular listener. So, William, welcome back to the third rail, my friend.
NatureBoy, great to be with you. Thanks for having me back. Thanks for the invite.
It's always a pleasure, my friend. It's always a pleasure. For some of my listeners who might not be familiar with who you are or the work that you've done, could you give us a brief rundown of who is William Ramsey and also where you can be found?
I published my first book, it's hard to believe, in 2010. That was about Aleister Crowley. And then I have 5 books. I've covered stuff on a wide variety of topics, things I think people didn't cover at the time, like the staged drownings of young men, also known as the Smiley Face Killers, Children of the Beast, which was Aleister Crowley's kind of impact upon the 20th century. I also did one on an occult group called the Order of Nine Angles. And then I have 5 documentaries that you can find on my podcast covering those kinds of subjects. Occult Hollywood as well. But then I was mostly a guest, actually, probably up until COVID, and then became a host and did a lot of work on that. And so now my podcast, William Ramsey Investigates, the top 20,000 podcasts in the world. And you can check it out on Spotify, Spreaker. And so I'm busy on Patreon. Patreon's a good spot where you can find my stuff ad-free. But I really looked into, since this big drop happened on January 30th, I've looked into these Epstein files. That's kind of what's preoccupied most of my time for the last couple of months.
Well, you've been doing some great work on it. Like I said, I'm a regular listener. And I also like the shows that you blend that in with movies and pop culture and kind of weave the two themes together. Speaking, I consider you a well-versed expert on the Epstein files, almost an authority. And that's why I brought you on. I think that there's a lot of things that the Epstein files have connections to that are happening in our world. And even though I have a question that's going to start with the salacious side of it, that's just a personal thing. Epstein goes so much farther than what the narratives being shown to the public. He was a pedophile and he did these things. That's just one spoke in a much greater wheel that is Jeffrey Epstein. But that is the spoke that the system, if you will, wants us to focus on. But he goes so much deeper. He goes into intelligence with his connections with Robert Maxwell, of course, Ghislaine's father. He goes into high finance, into transhumanism, all of these almost octopus type tentacles. And that's where I find him really fascinating. I mean, there's plenty of kid diddlers out there, but the depth to which his tentacles extended into the underworld was almost like a Jungian thing, where they would just appear on the surface looking like individual entities, if you will, but under the soil, they were all connected. And then I definitely want to get into the Iran war, because I think that there are some connections, and then explore the connections between the Epstein files, and not just Epstein. I mean, everybody's focused on the puppet, not the whole holistic wheel, if you will. But to start it off, I have a question, and it's going to be somewhat salacious, so forgive me. I'll give that disclaimer here. But I have heard many times and from many sources about people in these Epstein files who weren't just pedophiles. They actually sacrificed children, drank their blood, and cannibalistically cooked them and ate them. And my question to you, because you never know what's going on, what you're being told, is there any credence to that, William?
There is credence to them, like taking infants away from kids who were incubated. Yeah, there's really is good evidence. In recent cases after the death, I believe Jeffrey Epstein was killed in 2019 in jail. But there's really good evidence in these civil sections. And you can parse through kind of and break down these files into different parts, like much like you said, espionage, things like that. But one of the interesting and most important aspects of these files, aggregated, if you can parse through them, is could people have taken them offline and then been putting them through AI or other sites. But one of them is the civil cases that popped up after 2019. So according to Paul Castle, who was involved in this, all the way back to Giuffre, maybe almost 10 years with Edwards, who was another known attorney. He says there's 200 civil cases, and some of those civil litigation cases, some that never made it to court, that information's in these files, and they indicate that there's very dark and strange things going on with these people, and there are cases of women who've, like, where's my baby? They have doctors from Israel come in. That's what these girls say, and these babies are taken. And then if you look into other parts of the Epstein files with just code words, kind of like Pizzagate or what was called it shows the Podesta emails were very validated, I think, by the Epstein emails. But these have these code words like jerky, cream cheese, shrimp, all these code words that were never really seen before. And Jeffrey Epstein, for a guy who has a private chef and has tons of money, and you can see him being served in some of these pictures of being served by a private chef. He's very interested in jerky. And so keep it frozen, and I've got to have it with me. And it goes to the darkest practices of these guys. So I do think they're into cannibalism, and they're into the occult. Like, these are provable things that Jeffrey Epstein's into tantric sex and esoteric ideas and secret societies. The evidence for me, from what I saw, there's no direct evidence of blood drinking, but there is kind of tangential evidence of some of his friends. This guy Josephson, who makes movies in Hollywood, they have scenes from his movies that involve, like, pizza going into Bale pizza ovens, and pizza is another code word for these kids. So there's hinted at these events. And there's also testimony from a cop in Zorro Ranch that there was an incinerator at that ranch, which is very strange for this mansion to have an incinerator. There's also a picture of an incinerator in this, in the batches that you go through. So there are things that hint to the darkest practices. And Giuffre even said that, like, Ghislaine Maxwell had cloaks and stuff at the mansion. So I think that there is things that indicate that. I do believe that they were trafficking babies, and there are hints at them raping babies. And one of the important things to remember, too, is that we haven't seen all the files. We've actually seen redacted files. And so you kind of have to it's almost like a puzzle piece. So it really takes a lot of effort to kind of ascertain things and get to the point of, like, what these code words are. But, like, to directly verify, there's clearly satanic ideas involved in the files in Epstein personally. And he's surrounded by a lot of creepy people. But, like, the evidence of that actual thing of, like, human sacrifice doesn't seem to be. There's actual, like, indicators that they're hunting people and black people. They like, literally, I mean,
the most dangerous game type of thing is what you're talking about?
Well, there's actually one email that's about moon crickets, and they went out snipe hunting for moon crickets, which is an old kind of racist term for black people. So it indicates that they're going out hunting for black people, and that's redacted, so I don't know who that was. But to answer your question, there's just hints to this dark occult, human sacrifice and blood drinking. But it seems like, from my opinion, looking at all this stuff, these guys are involved in cannibalism. And one of the interesting things that ties Epstein's emails to Podesta's emails is this character who always shows up in strange places, Marina Abramovich.
Oh, yeah, I know her.
And one of his kind of things, this Edge Foundation, which seems to be, it's just one huge influence operation. You talk about espionage. But they were trying to, Brockman, who knew Epstein, and Epstein was at this Edge Foundation with all these important tech people in the Bay Area. But they were trying to set up meetings with her, I think in 2015 or 2016, like right around the time of Podesta emails came out. And she was the notorious witch who was, like, doing spirit cooking, pouring blood on stuff. And she has these fake, like, meetings with people where they fake eat bodies that are shaped like human bodies and stuff that emulate cannibalism publicly. So who knows what they're doing behind the scenes?
Well, if they're showing if they're showing us anything, what they're doing behind the scenes is a whole lot worse. It reminds me of something that Anthony Schaefer said a little bit after 9/11. He said, if they're showing you something over here and getting your attention there. What's going on over here, where the real meat is something completely different. And I understand that, it's plausibility. And like I said in my monologue, it's not proven, it's not confirmed. But where there is smoke, there's generally fire. And man, there's a lot of smoke in those Epstein files. A lot of smoke that hints not just towards, that cannibalism. Because I've had people ask me, and they're like, "Oh, you're crazy, nature boy, Dave. Yeah, take that tinfoil hat and buff it up." And I'm like, no, there's things within there that reference to that. Now, whether it is or not, I don't know. But there's some creepy stuff in there, man. There really is.
One of the interesting things, too, if you were, like, I did a lot of research on Epstein leading up to his arrest when he was killed in jail on August 10th, in the morning of August 10th, which was a Saturday. But when they arrested him originally, the chief attorney for the Southern District of New York, his name was Geoffrey Berman. Mm-hmm. And during that arrest, if you remember the press conference, they're like, call this number if you're involved with Epstein. And believe it or not, the public never saw this until these files were released. People called that number. They called it like crazy. And there's thousands of documents in there of people calling in, say, I know this guy, he's a creep. He fed people to alligators. And one thing that comes to mind that I didn't think of was there's a guy in there who drinks baby blood because it makes him stronger. So there is a reference to drinking. It's not at Jeffrey Epstein, but it's his network. And there's also references to Jimmy Savile, who is a known necrophiliac and pedophile. And like that's the way the public was fed this. You talk about narratives. Jimmy Savile was just he abused kids and stuff. He wasn't. He was a necrophiliac, cannibal, pedophile,
wizard,
rich, all these other things. And it seems like Epstein was like that too.
Yeah.
In his circle, he associated with those kind of people.
Yeah, well, those type of people run in small circles. If you look at the higher parts of the pyramid of power, they get less and less as far as the numbers of people. And they just all seem to connect in one way or another. And the more I look into how the power structure of the world operates, the more connections from disparate data points I see. And it makes me ask myself, is there anything that ain't connected amongst this stuff? These people, these royals and these American guys owning yachts in Florida that don't seem like they have any connections, you find out through various things like the Epstein files, yeah, they really do. And the network of Epstein, I think, is much greater than just the man himself. And one of the things I'd like to learn from you about is his arms dealing connections that, from what I've heard, go back to the Iran-Contra affair and Adnan Khashoggi. So could you maybe elaborate on that?
Before I do, somebody mentioned in the chat Kevin Hannon, who was arrested yesterday at the border, but he's done a lot of research into this very dark secret society that involves human sacrifice. It's called the Ninth Circle. And in these files, when there's a conversation between Bannon and Epstein where they mention the Ninth Circle specifically after discussing Dante's Inferno. And it's kind of a reference, but the Ninth Circle's like they get to this Ninth Circle statement in a strange way and then shut up. But that actually was when Bannon was in Brussels. And a lot of the stuff, Dutro, it involves Satanism, child trafficking, child rape, blood drinking, just the most horrible stuff imaginable. Strange deaths, which there's tons of strange deaths, like Eyes Wide Shut around the Epstein network. But Epstein's criminality started very young. He died when he was 66. So he was born in, I think, 53. And he seems to have been brought into this kind of network in his mid-20s or late 20s. And so he knew all these guys. He was pictured at Mar-a-Lago or one of the casinos of Trump back in 93. So when he was a fairly young guy, like 30s. And so he's around all this Iran-Contra stuff. He's brought in with Wexner. It seems like Wexner brought him into almost like being brought into the Italian mob. His side was the Jewish mob, in my opinion, or this kind of criminal network that doesn't have the kind of same externalized violence that maybe the Italian mob has, but it still operates as criminal networks. And so he was brought in. Khashoggi was a gun runner, cut off some girl's leg on his yacht. I'm talking about yachting. And so I think that's where Epstein really started, was all this stuff. And I can't remember when Maxwell's dad died, but there is an interesting email in the Epstein files that came out this year where Epstein says his life was ended. Like, he knew that Maxwell didn't fall off that boat.
No.
So he's very close to that family, very close to Ghislaine. But a lot of that drug, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, you talk about these narratives, he's a pedophile, he just likes young woman. That was the narrative that came out. No. There's kids and babies trafficking. There's stories of 5-year-olds being raped at the mansion, of child porn being made, and films. He was almost like an encyclopedic maintainer of all his porn stuff. Like, I think it would take a year to go through it all if it was all revealed. Like, there's picture after picture after picture after picture. A lot of it's redacted, so you can see this huge redaction process. Like, a lot of people, the public doesn't understand that there were hundreds and hundreds of people redacting these documents for nefarious reasons, for really dark reasons. But his gun running started back then, and I think that he was able to kind of keep it separate. And also, for a lot of people don't know that he had a 5-year drug investigation on him. If there's a file in there where he investigated for 5 years for supposedly running drugs. And there's stories of his associate Brunel trafficking cocaine through some of these people. And they had this specialized plane, like a 727, where the back would actually, this is very rare, but the back had the retractable staircase that you could open in flight.
Well, I have another quick question on that. It just popped in my mind, but I want to get back to that. Did he not buy that plane from Air America, or is there some connection to that 727, or was that true?
I was never able to validate that, but I think that plane is in Georgia somewhere. I think it's mothballed in Georgia. They took, a lot of times in plane transactions, they take parts off it because they're so valuable, the engines, but they leave the hole or something because it's not as valuable. I think that's what happened to the Lolita Express or the 727.
Yeah, I've heard people speculate. Well, one of the reasons why the CIA used those type of planes is because under 10,000 feet, you can lower that back staircase. And what do you want to throw out of it? You want to throw out kilos of cocaine, or you want to throw out a kid?
Yeah.
Or somebody that saw something that they shouldn't see, just you're flying over the ocean, lower that thing down, chuck them out. They're shark bait. No one will ever know what happened to them, as long as you don't have them on the manifest of the airplane. Y'all are good to go.
I don't trust the manifest of the airplane. I think they're indicative, but I don't think they're complete. And I've heard of stories of people being taken off of that too, who should be on there, who aren't. But I mean, the gun running, there's not a lot of evidence of what I saw of the gun running coming up to the present day. He seems to not have been at least writing about it. Maybe there's code words for the guns, but you don't see a lot of, at least I didn't. I mean, these are vast documents. There's like 1.5 million documents. It's hard to get through all of them. But I didn't see a lot of the more recent stuff, or cocaine or drugs. I only saw the investigation that came out, which probably wasn't associated with his emails. It was associated with the other information that was collected about Epstein. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, there's probably somebody in his network who was like a specific gun runner. But he was really a blackmailer, and the blackmail paid off. Like, he had this strange, he won $80 million at the New Mexico State Lottery the same year that he was arrested. I mean, and that he was blackmailing, in my opinion, he was blackmailing both governors, Richardson and this other guy whose name I can't remember. And so maybe that's the way they laundered their money. And that's really kind of how he earned his bones. He was involved in a pyramid scheme with this guy. I think his name was Hoffenberg, who's passed away. But for some reason, Epstein was able to kind of dodge charges. And he was always able to dodge and minimize charges. He was always doing that, even after his death, which is really strange. Because the real investigation into his co-conspirators and corporate conspirators was shut down in 2020. And there's clear evidence that it was shut down. And Geoffrey Berman, who I mentioned earlier, was fired by Trump and Barr before he could continue his investigation. But the evidence of his investigation into Epstein is there. And the same thing happened in 2007, where there's evidence in the files that came out that the authorities were investigating his network and they never went through with it. So it's just Epstein, and he had his charges lowered, if you remember.
Yeah.
The girl he was abusing was 14, and they raised it up to 16 and made it that. But he had a felony charge, and it was on his passport. And the files indicate that he had to make every 6 months he had to make statements to the 4 states that he was bouncing around in. I think it was Florida, Virgin Islands, New York, and New Mexico. He had to register as a sex offender every 6 months. And those files are in the files under a different email address. So he was clever. He had nicknames. His middle name was Edward. His real name was actually Yehuda, apparently on his
Yehuda?
Yeah, Yehuda. It's a Jewish name.
Okay.
But Jeffrey was his kind of anglicized name. And his middle name was Edward and Epstein, but he would go by Jeffrey Edwards. So there's a whole series of like emails with his fake name, and people are talking to him as a fake name. He also, another nickname of him was Sneaky. Too. But to answer your question, to get back to the gun running, those are like outside of the more recent Epstein files that I saw. Those are they're not. It's because the emails were collected probably from 1999, 2000 to the present, and so some of that earlier stuff is covered in different books and other things about him. But he was a scoundrel, man. There's absolutely no question about it.
In my opinion, he was a minimum of a sociopath, if not a psychopath.
There are things in the files where somebody said about Epstein like 25 years ago that he didn't have a conscience, like he didn't have a moral reflex. Like he didn't think about his actions at all. And there's no evidence in the files that he ever felt like lamented for his sins or repented for his sins. He was Jewish. Mm-hmm. He quoted the Talmud. He kept kosher, but he never went to the synagogue as far as I can tell.
He kept kosher. With all the horrible things that man did in his life, the one redeeming thing that he thought would save him, the good old Jewish God, is going kosher. Wow.
Yeah, he's really one of the most wicked people imaginable, because what he did to these kids is unspeakable. And they knew they were taking, in my opinion, based on the facts that are in the files, they were breeding people like Yao of God in Brazil. They're breeding kids and taking their kids for some nefarious, diabolical reason. They're either sacrificing them, eating them, or selling them, or all of the above. I don't know. But if you go back to the Old Testament, that's what Baal was. It was a child sacrifice thing, and it's recorded in the Old Testament. These occultists, that's what they did for power in their rituals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Baal god in Babylonia was the bull god, and it was made, I think, out of like bronze or copper, and below the hands of the god that was extended out, they'd have a giant cauldron burning, and the hands would be red hot, and the practice was taking babies and children and placing them on these hands on there. And that's goes into another thought that I've thought about a lot. When the public is now starting, for those that will open their eyes to see, are starting to see that, yeah, these rich people and these very powerful people, they not only are into pedophilia, but they kill kids. They sacrifice kids. Okay. Not proven, not confirmed, but damn, they're doing it. And people are like, oh my God, this revolution like this practice is new and it would never happen. And my retort is, people, this practice of child and human sacrifice has existed since humanity has existed. And it has always been here, but in the dark shadows. So what we're seeing, it's nothing new. It's just the latest version of it. And I can't help but think, okay, that when I look at these people that rule the world, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Epsteins, the Clintons, the Klaus Schwabs, all the way down, I see connections between them. And within, at least what I have learned, and I have seen, that when you get into these high levels of power, dark occultism is kind of the standard norm, if you will. That might be a little too extreme, but it's kind of like, oh, well, you want to be in the $20 billion club. Now, we can do that for you. Yeah, but you got to do a few things in order to join the club. And once they do, it's whatever material or carnalistic, I don't know if that's the right term, sick pleasure will be presented to you. And as much as you want, whenever you want. So it goes back to this, as I start seeing the connections, I'm like, are all these people that we see on the world stage dark occultists? Are the people that are the billionaires, and the people that really hold the power, who live in the shadows that we will never know their names, are they all sacrificing people? Are they all having these eyes wide shut parties and rituals to summon an entity beyond, say, our dimension, which is usually kind of a nasty SOB, Lucifer, hey, he's the bringer of light. Well, the Bible says that the devil shall appear as an angel of lights. Your thoughts on that?
Sure seems like it, and that's what may be the secret bond that ties all these people together that you don't see, is never mentioned and never sent by an email, so there's no evidence. It's just hinted at, is these kind of eyes wide shut parties. I did a whole thing on Epstein files and eyes wide shut. I can pull up the PDF I have of that, and you can see this guy. If you pull up the Josephson Ball thing, this guy literally made a movie showing a pizza going into this Baalic head that you're like this describing. It's like literally looks like Baal, and we can show that video. It's incredible, but it has all the symbolism of pedophilia in it, even a young kid. And he was friends with Epstein. There are emails between this guy and Epstein, but it sure seems like Epstein wanted to know about every secret society and secret gathering and elite thing. So there was one group called Killing Kittens that I never heard of, that from the UK, and there's a whole email thread about that group. There's a new secret society that only had 12 members called Zodiac that had like famous news reporters on it. Mm-hmm. Also, I talked about the Ninth Gate. Kevin Annett's done a lot of research on that, and that involved human sacrifice in like the Catholic Church in Italy. So this kind of knowledge is there, and then you overlap with some of these people that are in his groups, and it's like Balenciaga and the Magic Circle. Like he's really close friends with Blaine, who's a magician, and David Copperfield, whose real name is Kotkin, who also has a very interesting history with women. But there are pictures of Copperfield like hamming it up with Ghislaine Maxwell. They're like hugging, like they're intimate friends. Mm-hmm. Like not just casual, but they're in bathrobes together. And then this guy's like, there are rumors of him drugging women at his own island. So Epstein is associated with all these guys that have their own island, whether it's Branson, Copperfield, Nygaard. It's really super dark. So they're connected and doing weird stuff, and that's there's a lot of strange deaths around Epstein and people in his network that are unexplained. And some, I can bring up pictures, but
bring them. Anything you want to share, just put it in the private chat, and Ray will bring it up.
Well, can you bring up that other one that says William on it, because that's the if you read that, it's hard to read, but if you read it, it says snipe hunt is over. Moon crickets and field bag. A field bag is a very specific term. It's a hunting term. It's like a burlap bag that the Lisk killer Huerman used to do with his victims. Is you put them in a hunting bag. Yeah. And this is from those January terms. Those are somebody's tied those directly to GMAX or Ghislaine Maxwell's account. This is how she put time. And it says, guess what? They're N-word. Like it's pretty dark. So the snipe hunt is over. So this is like a reference to human hunting of black people, in my opinion. I'm surprised black people aren't more outraged by this. It's crazy.
Well, if they were presented with honest, correct information, they'd be pissed off. But nobody is with these.
Well, that's the whole thing. The cover-up is really just as important as the story. Because this whole thing, Trump came into office. All these people, they were all saying, we're going to show the Epstein files, right? Mm-hmm. So Trump was saying it on podcasts and TV. Patel was doing it. Bongino was doing it. Yeah, of course. They get into power January 20th. And by March, in these files, they're showing they're already starting this huge redaction process that involves the entirety of the FBI. And in public, Bondi is saying it's on my desk. Well, there's no way these things are on her desk. That's something for public consumption because there's too many freaking files. There's terabytes of files. Mm-hmm. The evidence is the redactions in the files show that this is a massive cover-up. One person couldn't do it. It would take me or you 10 lifetimes to do the redactions that they did on all these files. They're so complete. So they had a whole army of hundreds of people in Northern Virginia. This isn't me talking. These are other reports that are public of just redacting and asking questions. Who should redact? And there's one thing in this smart thing. Redact presidents, celebrities, and anybody of power. So imagine that you're the president of the United States or you're in the administration. You see the redactions, and then you have the files that are unredacted.
Oh, that's a lot of power. That's some good, juicy blackmail stuff.
The public now, I'm looking around the redactions and trying to put pieces together. They know why they're redacting. Mm-hmm. That's control. That's Iran war. That's what you're talking about in the theme of this. You want to know why the Congress and Mike Johnson haven't even said this is a war when it's a war? Like this is like World War III, that millions of people are going to die because of oil. Oil is the foundation of, and everything that comes out of actually the Strait of Hormuz. There's so much like other stuff like, what do you call it? Fertilizer and things like that. And helium. It's like it's a foundational part of the global economy. Millions of people are going to die out of this. You know the reason they're not bringing it up is because the government, the files are so, in my opinion, so potent in that they have what's redacted that they're using it for nefarious and diabolical ends.
It seems to be a pattern with... Go ahead, sorry.
Blanche came out and literally said we have 2.3 million files that involve death, torture, and child porn we're not going to release.
2.3 million files. Correct. Death, torture, and holy shit. That would take a lifetime.
What they're telling the public, but they said they had 6 million files. They released 3.5 in relationship to the EFTA, which is the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which is a really lame piece of... It's only one page. It's a really... If you know, like, congressional legislation, it's like most simplest childish. Like, they didn't delineate how the files should be released. They didn't delineate how people would access it. They didn't do anything. They had this... This is how stupid Congress is and how corrupt they are. They're really freaking stupid because the data technology that's out today is just light years. You can do so much. I mean, there's whole squads within computer science of like data technical guys. That's all they do is how to parse data, so they can figure out what to sell you or what anticipate stuff. It was almost like something from freaking Radio Shack. It's the way they put these files out, but it's just absolutely off the charts. Like the corruption and stuff that they did. They had to have hundreds of people putting these redactions out for a year, and Bondi is covering it up. And then when her work is done, Trump kicks her ass to the curb. No longer, it's the most ruthless thing imaginable. You're done. You're used. Thanks for being toilet paper. Now get out.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired. You did a good job, but you're no longer needed.
Show, right? Just like the show.
But yet, by her not being in office, there's a lot that she can't testify to.
Oh, they probably made her sign an NDA. Did all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, once she gets out in the private sector, they're going to set her up with a cushy job, because, hey, I don't know who...
She was set up as the AG of Florida for that cushy job. Like, that was why she was there, and that's why there was never any other prosecutions. So she might be part of the network as a cover up, and somebody's done research. There's so many great researchers out there. I mean, some of these young kids, it makes you like beam with pride, like they're really grinding through it. Kids know, teens know, and stuff like that about the past. There's one girl who found a connection between Bondi and somebody named Frankel, who ran a teen troubled youth center or something in Ukraine, which is a real red flag. It's a huge red flag.
Just like Erica's Romanian Angels type of a thing. An NGO.
It's a huge giveaway.
Right. We're there to protect the children in a devastating area, to provide them with aid, relief, and potential adoption services to loving American homes where they can have a shot at life. That type of thing. When the reality is no, they're child trafficking organizations.
And if you remember from the Podesta emails, they had that one woman who went to Haiti and ran off with her African American kids. And then she changed her name and disappeared. Once they caught her, I forgot her name offhand, whatever.
That was an interesting story because I remember when that happened, right? She got caught with 30, I think it might have even been more than that, but like 30 or 33 kids. And she was like, oh no, these are orphans that we're bringing over to the Dominican Republic so we can adopt them out in our special, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, yeah, but their parents, we just talked to their parents and they're looking for their kids. Oh, hey, by the way, call my friend Bill Clinton. Okay. Phone call gets made. 24 hours later? Did he? I think he might have even flown out there or something. But something like a day or so later, they're like, oh, you can go, but you got to leave the kids. But you can go. You have a nice day, ma'am.
And there's a young girl during that time whose name I forget. She went to Haiti to investigate all that stuff.
Did she live?
Found her. What?
Did she live?
No, they found her home in Haiti.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think her name was Peterson. I mean, there's so many dead bodies around this. There's dead models. There's somebody who was supposedly shot in the head in Oklahoma. People who mysteriously died who were close to the network. I mean, it's a slaughterhouse. I think that the Epstein network would farm out hits and intimidation. Like there's stuff in the files of this guy Richard Marcinko. Have you heard that name?
Vaguely, it strikes a chord.
He wrote books. He was a former special ops guy, like he's known. Mm-hmm. But he had an association with Epstein through Mexico and Juarez. Which, if you know what goes on in Juarez, it's a major red flag. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever goes to Juarez for vacation. It is a border town. It's literally like something from Blood Meridian or something.
You go there if you're 18 and you want to get drunk and go see a donkey show. That's about the value of Juarez. It's not even Tijuana, It's like
it's not even Tijuana.
It's the ghetto version of TJ.
Right. On the other side of El Paso. And would you know what Juarez is really internationally famous for?
What's that?
Femicide. So they have over 2,000 young women who've been snatched off the street, disappeared for a time to later be found in the desert.
The cartel. El Cartel.
No. It's even worse than that because people are traveling there. Like Epstein went to Juarez. And there's other guys. An Egyptian guy was there. There's whole books on it. It's part of the subculture. If you want to read a really bad book, you can read Robert Bolaño's 2666, which covers these cases. And, in my opinion, that's part of the trafficking. And these are like the standard women who were part of the victims of the Epstein, young girls, young teen girls, 14, 15, 16, very, very, very poor families who are in shanties and stuff like that. Yeah. So,
throwaway children is when I used to work with homeless youth. That they were referred to. No, I wouldn't refer to it, but they're throwaway kids.
That's the common theme: is the commodity of the flesh trade, which makes more money than drugs, because you can take these kids and resell them. And imagine if they're predators on like a global scale, so they're feeding them up to like people who are going to rape them, but you don't really see the money laundering or how much is getting paid. But Epstein's money flows are extraordinary, and a lot of them aren't obvious. Like they're not. His investment stuff. They were investing. He and his buddy Leon Black were investigating and stuff. Shutterfly, whose sub company takes all the pictures of the kids in high school. So all of the photos that are taken for your photo album were taken by companies of which Apollo Capital and Epstein owned substantial. Epstein, I think, had $5 million in shares in that company that takes photos. So imagine that's your access.
I have a question as far as investments go. Is there any connections with Epstein and Ring Cameras, that company?
Not to my knowledge. I think Ring is owned by Amazon. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I think Amazon bought them out.
Along those lines.
One of the interesting things is he has a list in his whole thing of all of his investments at given times. Like there is somebody who's doing forensic investigations, and I should reach out to that guy. But he had stock. His portfolio was vast. I think he had something like $70 million in the stock market through a variety of different stuff, and he was always buying and selling. And he was very astute, and he was always trying to monetize things. So if he got information that would influence something, he would try to, buy something or sell something. You can see that in the emails. And there's emails between him and one of the Rothschilds where like, we could make a lot of money in Ukraine. So you talk about kind of international geopolitics. And the same thing probably happens with Iran and what they know when this war. And to me, it's pretty obvious Trump is juicing the market with his statements. Like he's deliberately, he figured out that he can really be a market mover based upon his crazy statements, Nero-like statements about whether he's going to stop the war or start the war. And I think that his buddies, like in the Epstein network, of which he is a solid member, are profiting off it as well. Maybe his son or some other people seem to be doing it.
Well, let's get into what's going on in the Middle East. You just mentioned something, his son-in-law, and I think you're referring to Jared Kushner, who to me is a minimum of a sociopath, if not a psychopath. There was at the Davos conference this year. Did you catch his speech he had about the redevelopment of Gaza by chance?
Not in detail. Can you tell me about it?
Okay. I would like to. Hold on, let me see if I could pull. Hey, Ray, could you look and find maybe a picture of the Kushner's proposed redevelopment of Gaza? So here he is, William, that skinny little creepy dude in his three-piece suit with a very calm voice, just like he's pitching a new real estate deal. And he's up there talking about, what they're going to do with Gaza. And he's pitching it like a real estate developer. They have all of Gaza planned up and redeveloped in different sectors. And you've got hotels and green areas and industrial zones and ports and all of this. And it was absolutely chilly and eerie to watch him say this because it was so matter of fact. But when you look at this, it's like, dude, how did you get that big swath of land? Oh, we just killed everybody that lived there, women, children, whatever. October 7th, Hamas, come on. And we rebelized it, and they're going to rebelize the whole damn thing. And then they're going to put up the, lack of a better term, Trump Gaza Mediterranean resort type things. And here it is, right here. This is all of Gaza. So, and another interesting thing is during that speech is that he kept referring to, we're doing this for the people of Gaza.
Right.
He used that language. Never once did he say Palestinians. The people of Gaza. It's the Barnes statement. It means something different to everybody else. They look at that, oh, it's for the Palestinians. It's no. The people of Gaza. Could it be just the people that live there? People that are allowed to live there? Palestinians, they know. And Israel, the government, the leaders, religious leaders have been very vocal about eradicating the Palestinians from Gaza, from the West Bank. And that just doesn't include, so all the listeners out there, people, another thing, and I'll get off of this in a second, but it goes back to narrative management. The narrative that has been thrown to the American people about the Palestinians is they're dirty Muslims, which is the farthest thing from the truth. Not only is there a Muslim population, there's a huge Christian population. Hey, Bethlehem, where the good Lord was supposedly birthed, yeah, it's in the West Bank. All that area is. There's different religion sects, and they're just wiping them out. wiping out. Yet we got all these Christian Zionists over here, TPUSA type people, right? Who are cheering this on, cheering this destruction on. And then you've got Orange Jesus's kid, who is a full-fledged member of Bilderberg. He's been to the meetings, yo. If you don't know who Bilderberg is out there listening, look it up. It's also chilling. I know William knows about it. But it just goes back to how these psychopaths operate. And you have Kushner proposing this redevelopment of Gaza. Then you have his father, who is now attacking and started the hot part of World War III with Iran, who had, and I'm not here to be an Iran file, William. I'm an American, right? But I'm objective. They have not invaded a country in 247 freaking years or so, right? And now old Bibi lights off a barrage, hits Iran. Iran retaliates back, and then Orange Jesus comes in and just starts laying waste to that country. But hey, it's over in a week. You know, it'll be a 6-week war. And it comes back to, and this is what I want to ask you, is what we're seeing, and I know it's kind of a rhetoric question, is what we're seeing in the Middle East an independent, organic catastrophe? Or does it go deeper? And does it kind of go into the network that the Epstein files are exposing?
100%. There's absolutely no doubt. The Epstein files are the key. The Epstein network. They call it a class, some people. I like network because it's not everybody, but it's really the Trump administration is the Epstein network. There's no question. It involves Kushner, Litnick, and Trump. So I think that was the whole thing of Trump, is that he was going to get in through lies, and he betrayed the American people who really wanted the Epstein files fully released, which has not happened.
Right.
And this war, foreign wars. This is going to be a very costly foreign war. They asked for $200 billion. Hegseth asked for that. So I think that I think that Trump is in the Epstein files, but he doesn't know he's the focal point of a intel espionage influence operation. He seems to be the last one to figure it out.
Do you think Trump's a dupe? Or do you think he's playing a dupe? He's playing the heel like when he did in WWE, and he's really, really in on it, just playing his role.
He's trying to profit off of his associations. That's what I think. And I think that he was involved in criminal, bailed out. Somebody in the chat said the Rothschilds bailed him out through Wilbur Ross. And I think that's true. So I think he has a debt. He's gotten bailed out all the time. I think that he's not as smart as he presents himself. He's smart enough to get away with stuff and lie, but I don't think he's really at the highest level of the bell curve. Mm-hmm. And he also makes rash decisions, like lacking judgment. And I think he's going insane now. He's a mix, in my opinion, at this point. He's a mix of both King Lear and Macbeth. So I think that, but I do think that they've always, the fact that he's sending out Kushner and Witkoff, who are both ardent Baalists. I don't even call them Zionists. There's nothing peaceful about the state of Israel. Not in its current incarnation. And it's Antichrist. They hate Christians. Like you said, they're bombing stuff. They blew away 20% of the Palestinians are Christian. They blew away the road to Emmaus, which is where Christ appeared to two people on a road. There was a church there, and they double-tapped a mother and daughter there and shot them in the head. A lot of these people who committed these war crimes and genocide are in the United States. For some reason, they're let back in here to go back and kill people, like they come and do R&R in the United States. But they also blew up the Wedding at Cana Church, which is another important, where Christ had his first miracle where he turned water to wine. So as Christians who believe in miracles, that's the core of the church, is that Christ was resurrected. Yeah. And you can support this church. I think you've actually abrogated all of your Christian principles to support these people. And then the fact that the Christian church isn't outraged by the Epstein network and files is a huge tell. They've been compromised and salt has lost its savor. I'm sad to say that. I feel sorry for them. I really do. And I think that's why people don't go to churches. So these people don't have any passion for righteousness. It's a joke. They're just right. They're they're talking a dead letter to me. So
agree.
it's sad. I really don't. I hold them in kind of like people who just weren't able to reach the mark, like somebody trying to jump high to the high bar or something, can't make it. That's the way I feel about the Christian church. Actually, when I first was reading through the Epstein files, I was really sick. I actually like wept tears of like sadness for how evil it was. But I also thought of A True Detective, where the guy Matthew McConaughey plays Rustin Cole, and he goes to see this guy Reverend Tuttle, and he's just staring at him. And this Tuttle guy's like has a literal neon cross and a fake hair of the online TV presenter evangelist. I'm just like, this is like that. It turns out Tuttle's involved in really dark stuff. Tuttle ends up being the key to breaking through the entire show of True Detective, because Rustin Cole basically gets his Epstein files, which is a VHS tape that he gets out of his bag in that Southwestern.
Well, I mean,
it's unbelievable days. So these are really, you talk about end of times or whatever, it feels like that. Yeah. And these fanatics, the Jewish fanatics who are anti-Christ, it's not the first thing. If you go back and look at 70 AD and the Bar Kokhba revolt of 150, these are like these kind of people today.
Right, yeah.
You know, really like Sicario fanatics, thinking they're doing the right thing. I mean, it's just, it's incredible days.
Well, there's no more dangerous person than a person that thinks that they're doing God's work. And
in the Bible, like a famous quote, they will kill you thinking they're doing the work of God.
Exactly. Right? And
isn't that what Saul was before he became Paul?
Oh, yeah, he was a badass, brother. Yeah, he loves slaughtering the Christians. And then Jesus comes along and goes, hey, Saul, whoa, your name's now Paul and you're going to be a right-hand man. And guess what? You know, the Bible says, yeah, he dropped his sword and followed Jesus. Another quote that comes out that came to my mind is when you're talking earlier is, in the end, many will be deceived, even the elect. And I see that in our society and in the Christian movement here with these mega churches. And I have my own experiences with mega churches. Now, I could maybe explain it to you another day, but it involved Pastor Moorhead. And his name is very, let's just say, ironic of what happened at that church. And what gets me is Christian Zionists that take over the TP USA. You know, Charlie Kirk, I think, was a true Truman Show. I really do. And then you have all these Hagees and Hegsists that are saying Israel's our best friend and we got to do everything for Israel and don't even criticize Israel. That's anti-Semitic and you're anti-Christian and you're anti-American. But my retort to that is the Christian Zionism is, from a historical standpoint, it's very simple. It's like, y'all remember who put a hit out on our good Lord Jesus? It wasn't the Romans, kid. They carried the execution out. It was the people that were Israelites, because the term Jew came much later. So you might just want to rethink this dedicated Christian Zionism, and then Zionism, and once again it comes back to controlling narrative. Zionism, you know this fully well, is not anything to be connected with religion. It is a political ideology which was started by Herzog in the late 1800s, and Herzog, I think, was a 32nd or 30th degree Mason and a hardcore atheist. So it goes back to, in the end, many will be deceived, and I think a lot of people, a good amount of Christians in this day and age, are being deceived and they're buying into the evil deeds of the desert. Now, I'm off base on that, William, or does that have credence, my friend?
100%. 100%. I mean, like I said, what they're doing is in conformance with the teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. Like, wow, it's nuts. It's like vicious. I mean, I think they'll be damned out of their own book. They'll be damned out of the Ten Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. They're killing children, blowing children away. A lot of people, if you look at some of the polls, my understanding from Israel is like 4/5 of the Israeli population is on board.
Yeah, they are.
So, I mean, even that, like you want to talk about Baalism, the original attack on Iran, well, it's been an ongoing. You have to see it as an ongoing war. The war started last year,
Hmm.
but the most recent attack, like, killed 160 little girls in Manab in Iran. Like, it's not a valid target unless you are a genocidal maniac.
And it's
How
not.
do you justify it?
You can't justify it by going, "Hey, we got bad targets." Hey, the missile went area. They double tapped it, William.
Yeah,
They
they did it
double.
intentionally. At this point, they've been slaughtering Gaza with Palantir technology,
Sure.
AI technology. They don't have an excuse.
No, they don't. They don't. And what Max Egan so eloquently has said for years now: "So goes the way of Gaza, so goes the way of the world." And what we are seeing happening over there with the drone technology, the slaughtering, the missiles, and all that stuff, right? Us Americans, because we're separated by the Atlantic and the Pacific, we've never been attacked. We got little skirmishes in War in 1812, but we never had our asses kicked, never had invaded. So Americans in general have this hubris that war only happens over there. They don't understand that we're not in the World War II, Korea, Vietnam, or even the Desert Storm days. We're in the age of hypersonic weapons, drone technology, and space weapons. So the technology exists. Now, Iran might not quite have it yet, but Russia and China do, to create havoc with drones and missiles that we are doing over there right here on our shores. And that's something that I do not want to see. But if stuff keeps going like this, we might very well see that.
You have to think that they're thinking of the Russians and stuff. Like, the real push for the Russian war in Ukraine is the United States and international Jewry. They call it the neocons, but it's really international Jewry. They hate that term, but almost
Right.
behind this whole war is this, including Jews in Israel, but it's U.S. too, who've infiltrated and directed our foreign policy to nefarious ends. Like, they don't talk, nobody ever said sorry about the 3 million people who died in the Ukraine conflict since 2022.
3
Like,
million, it's up to.
what's up?
It's up to
Yeah.
3 million now.
There's at least 1.5 million Ukrainians dead. And
And
God only knows. I mean, they've emptied the country. It used to be 32 million. I think they're down to under 20 million now. So there's tons of refugees. Like, they're around people, my family members. They're in the United States. So there's no conscience about all this stuff, even about the Iran war. Like, these people who are in there are sociopathic. But
Yeah.
the whole thing, here's the thing. If you want to learn from world history, the Germans never thought that they would be touched either when they attacked other people. And when the Grand Army of Napoleon invaded Moscow, they never thought that they would burn Moscow to a thing. And that Grand Army was of 500,000 men, and 5,000 supposedly crossed the border back into Poland. And within 2 years, the Russians were in France. They were in Paris. They're literally pounding on restaurant things. And the French are like, what? How did this happen? So the Americans are under hubris. They're under they're led by false teachers in the Christian church, in my opinion, from the top. And they're naive to think that they can't be touched, just like you said. Hypersonic missiles, things like that. They're thinking about it because like, you had Arachi, I forgot his name, the guy who's the current head, the one that we haven't murdered. If Trump is taking glee in killing all these like decapitation strikes. But one guy said the reason we have supersonic missiles that only go 2,000 kilometers is because we limited it to 2,000 kilometers.
Oh, really?
You know?
Now?
Yeah,
We can just put a couple boosters, and we can reach out and touch over there in New York.
we can put the finger on you. The Russians have a missile that runs off of oxygen from the atmosphere.
What?
That means it doesn't need gas, guys. Like, you're not getting the real information from the guy. Like, the boomer pundits miss a lot of the stuff, but like, they have stuff that they can put the finger on us. I can tell you this. They say that Israel has a Samson option. You can believe that Iran and Russia have it.
Yeah.
So what do we do? Well, who's benefiting from this war? It's not the average American person. There's no question about it.
No,
Well, wait till the costs go up, guys. Wait till inflation goes up. It'll happen soon, but the avalanche will be here. So I'm telling you right now, like, start prepping, because there's no question. Once they've taken a lot of oil out of the system, and thinking that maybe we can cover it is, I hope that we can, at least on the Western hemisphere. But it'll have a lot of changes. Like, oil will probably go up. Like, that's what my thought is. But once that happens, it like changes the whole international and financial order.
Well, another thing too is not just the oil. I mean, that's the narrative that I see focused towards the public is price of gas, oil. I'm in the fuel business, okay, and transfer just the energy part of oil is only one spoke in a much greater wheel. It's goes into fertilizer manufacturing. It goes into plastics. Everything is plastics made from petroleum. It goes into pharmaceuticals. It goes everywhere. So if the Straits of Hormuz, which supplies a huge amount of things like fertilizer, PTE based products, and that goes to make all the plastic that stores the food that can be shipped to us that we can buy in the grocery store, that's going to be affected. So what's going to happen then when we can't get our plastic? And then what's also going to happen when the fertilizer doesn't come out? Now, maybe here in America, we're going to have, food shortages, but they're the rest of the world, there's places they're going to have flat out mass starvation. Just the repercussions of what comes out of that is just so tremendous. And I can't help but thinking that this is all part of the Great Reset. Well, I take a high view of this, and I put myself in the psychopath's minds like hypothetically a Klaus Schwab. And this is exactly how I'd plan it. What's happening also that I don't hear a lot of talk about from, quote, normies, if you will, is the systematic destructions of the world's energy production. They're taking out refineries. They're taking out natural gas plants. They're taking out factories that refine things, that produce products that we have to have in the world. And they're just taking them out left and right. Israel takes a couple of Irans, and Iran's like, oh, F us, no, F you. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, bye-bye, UAE. Yeah, your stuff's knocked out for a while. Oh, Qatar, bye-bye. Hey, Dubai, all those ultra-rich billionaires that thought you had it so good there, well, Dubai is pretty much screwed now. And these are repercussions that I'm afraid, if something doesn't happen, will hit us on so many fronts. When it does, it will be like a tsunami that hit the shores of San Francisco, which is 300 feet tall.
I agree with you. I think you're right. People don't know what's coming.
No.
One of the interesting things, this happened to me today, NatureBoy. This was today. I live by a huge refinery here in LA. I just happened that way. I didn't intend it to be that way, but my wife's family's around here. For the first time, I saw police officers and security guards at the entrances to each entrance. I have to drive around it to get to the grocery store, which is, I mean, that's why I want to get off the grocery store thing, but it's the first time I've ever seen them sitting there, like in a state of, like in the car. The cars aren't empty, looking around at people. So something's going on. Something's happening globally. They're going after the refineries.
Yeah, and we're wide open here in America because, hell, we've never been attacked. I mean, we're not going to have, like, military-type security around our oil refineries, but...
If you wanted to destroy the system, that might be the first thing, is destroy the energy grid.
Exactly.
And then people just eat each other. It'll be Mad Max. Like listening to other geopolitical shows, and a lot of these geopolitical analysts are not saying they're doom and gloom kind of things. They're not saying like, hey, everything's rosy because of the Iran war. It's not. It's the opposite.
Yeah, it is. When you talked about people eating each other, just something came in my mind of a RAND study that was made. The RAND Corporation made it, and it was an EMP type of a study. What would happen if an EMP hit and knocked out the grid? Well, within a matter of days, the grocery stores would be clear out of food. And within a few weeks, you would start seeing cannibalism. And within, I believe it said 30 days, you would see roving bands of cannibals going on the streets. And it sounds extreme. It sounds like some movie like The Road or something like that. But when you systematically and analyze what happens when food runs out, nobody's got anything stored up. So they're going to be starving for food. And when humans are starving for food, they will do anything that they can to survive. And there's going to be segments within that population that will resort to cannibalism. I mean, it's crazy. And that's just an EMP attack. William, that's just setting off a couple nukes up there in space, right, up in our troposphere or stratosphere, that just takes out our electrical grid. Now, what happens when the drones start flying in? Because think about this, hypothetically, right? And if I could think about it, I know this is old school news to the military planners, right? You got a cargo ship floating out off the West Coast, maybe in international waters, 100, 200 miles off. It looks like benign, It's a Costco ship. Well, within it, you have multiple containers that are housed, are drone launchers. All of a sudden, boom, those things open up and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of drones hit the West Coast. Some are explosive ones. Now, this is my hypothetical situation, right? 50 to 90 kilograms of high explosives. That can do a lot of damage. Other ones can be programmed as assassin bots, the small, fast ones. That AI just says, okay, we're going out here and I'm picking the targets, and just start wiping out civilians. It sounds crazy, but the technology exists for that to happen. And if, to take me back to putting myself in the shoes of a psychopath military planner, I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I'd do it like that. We're going to give you some of them drones. Oh, by the way, on that cargo ship launcher, can you hide a few hypersonic missile launchers out there? Let's roll. It's just, I don't know what you think about it, but I just can see these crazy Mad Max, Terminator type of situations and scenarios happening. Your thoughts?
I can too. It's called systems collapse. It only takes one thing. Actually, in the past, system collapses have happened, and they've resulted in catastrophes. One was the breakdown after World War I in Russia, where the Russian Revolution didn't start because a bunch of maniacs or revolutionaries were running around. It was a bread riot that grew into it. So one woman threw a brick through a bakery in St. Petersburg, and it had a cascading effect because people couldn't eat. And then the same thing happened in really the core revolution that influenced the left forever is the French Revolution, which was really a bread revolt. The people didn't have any bread, so they didn't have anything to lose. These are core things. These are like elementary history. So you take that away, but they say that if people don't get water in 3 days,
they're dead.
Food in a week changes everything, because it's really about survival. Like, they don't have anything to lose at this point. So I think that it's real, and I think that when you talk about, like, those are what you're thinking about, you can bet people in Russia, Iran, China are thinking about that. And that was what we did to them. If you remember, during this conflict that we have, which is a pseudo proxy war, all these kind of boomer geopolitical pundits keep saying it's a proxy war. It's not a proxy war. The U.S. is behind the takeover of Ukraine, and Zelensky is a puppet. So don't believe these people who are too obtuse to actually get what really happened. They're not incisive enough. But we did it through the Maidan Revolution 2014. But if you remember, there was an attack on Russian planes that happened. One was like in Irkutsk, and one was what they did is it was an operation where they took those transport boxes or whatever they put on the ships, right? Transport metal bins, and brought them in full of drones, and then somebody triggered them through a truck, and they triggered those drones to go out and attack these airports behind enemy lines. So if you think that's not going to happen here, you're naive.
I agree.
And I mean, these guys are. I mean, they've gone all in. The Trump administration has really gone all in on this Iran war, and I think it's going to spiral out of their control. Like There's many more deaths than you're talking about. Every
Yes.
base in the Middle East is gone, guys. They moved everybody out, so there were 13 bases. They're not
now,
coming. I mean, you're not getting it on the national news. Sorry.
and you never will, because the national news is not news; it's narrative management and propaganda. It just shakes my head. I've got a lot of normie friends, right? And I've tried to tell them they're being lied to, and I get laughed at. You know, I'm the conspiracy theorist guy. You don't know what you're talking about, and I'm like, no, I do know what I'm talking about. I may not be an expert, but I know what I'm talking about. And what you're seeing on all forms of corporate media is controlled narrative management and propaganda. And I just keep telling some people, I've said this, look, if you want to understand this, you do a simple thing. Read Edward Bernays' book he wrote in the 1920s called Propaganda. Just read it. It's a quick read, and it will forever change your outlook and paradigm on the media, and especially the news, because, hey, even the old Walter Cronkite days, the daddy you could trust. Let's not forget.
Who's in the Epstein files.
Yes, and is the voice behind the Moloch Owl at Bohemian Grove. He's the voiceover guy that does the ritual for Bohemian Grove of what? A mock simulation of sacrificing a child.
Cremating your care. You don't care. Who cares? Who cares about the peasants?
Yeah, exactly. Who cares about the peasants? Who cares about
the St. John of Nepomuk from the Bohemian Club downtown San Francisco, who's making the sign of silence. So don't, and then there's a reference to Shakespeare. What is it? Weeding spivers do not weave, or whatever, they don't tell, right?
Yeah.
So that's who you're ruled by. These kind of occultist types. Like, it's part of your theme that you talked about earlier.
Yeah. It's it's almost like the revelation of the method, William. To put myself in, that psychopathic mindset, or, hey, I'm going to take it one step weirder. I'm putting myself in the shoes of a demonic force who wants to take down God. But first, I got to deal with this thing called the world. You damn Skippy, I'd be putting all my boys in high positions of power in the priesthood and the Jewish religions and everything I could. I would penetrate as much as I can. Get every loyal follower that worships me, the Oompa Goomba God, because I don't want to say Baal, that's just too blasphemous. You damn Scipio. Well, and it is just so pervasive. The Crowleyan, Babylonian, deep occult is like this mycelium of the elite that connects all of them, man. All of them. And yet they get up on stage and the world praises them and says, solve my problems, fix the world. Why? Fix the wars. And they're like, we will, but first you have to sign this form right here. Yeah. Oh, by the way, prick your finger really quick. We need a little bit of blood on that plume there. Okay, there you go. Hey, we got you covered. It's just crazy. I mean, the depth that I see, not only in a geopolitical scene of the connections, but also from a much deeper esoteric. You were talking earlier about Order of Nine Angles, the Ninth Circle. All of these secret societies seem to have an interconnection within, let's go back to the Epstein files. Now, anybody that knows anything about secret societies is they have hierarchies. So the first level thinks they got the truth, but they got the lie. You don't get the truth until you get to the second level, because you find out in the second level, hey, what we told you in the first level is all a lie, but here's the truth. And that pattern repeats itself. The higher you go, and the higher you go, the more source information you'll have access to. But in order to get to those high levels of power, you got to take an oath, and you need to prick your finger and just sign that little contract, if you know what I mean. It's just crazy, brother. And listening to your show and listening over the years of listening to you when you have your shows on the occult, and then when you're working on the geopolitical stuff, has helped me a lot into learning how to pick out these connections. And the more that I see, the deeper it goes, and the less, William, I know. It's the damnedest thing.
All the worlds are stage for these people, because that's what binds them together. People say they're bound together by the pedophilia. It may be even worse. It's the blood pricking occult. That's what they do for the mob. You burn something and you draw blood. The Italian mob, at least. In the Jewish mob, maybe you like bite a baby's penis. Like they literally have a breast ceremony.
Yeah,
the rabbi sucks a baby's
jaw,
like penis. Like it's really that bad.
Yeah, so I know. And those cases
that's a ritual. That's not biblical for people who haven't read the Bible, But here, if you bring up these pictures, here's the tie between Epstein and the occult and secret societies is him with Cronkite. That's him on the left. There's Cronkite. This is the guy who helped cover up JFK assassination. How crazy this is.
And
I don't know who this guy is. Anybody know a guy in the
I don't know, but he looks like he looks like a kid diddler. Yeah.
Probably are. It's just incredible.
It's all connected, man.
Look at that old clock. That's probably 20 years old at least. And even the magazines.
Yeah, what are magazines? Well, in this day and age.
But yeah. There are sets of these like pictures. There are thousands of these. And some of them are just pretty mundane, but put within some of these are some very telling pictures, man.
Yeah, I heard about a hack into the FBI files, the Epstein files, where someone was able to go in there and delete like 5 gigabytes or some crazy amount of information. You know anything about that?
I'm not. I am aware that the other data sets were apparently set up to be put out to the public. Like there were other data sets. They only put out 12 so-called data sets, but somebody found out that there were other data sets. Let me see if I can find it. That may be sitting on their servers. Like the government's so incompetent, they might actually have done it,
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, just like I said a million times, the more I dig into it, the more connections I see and the crazier it seems that it is. And I've been studying world government since the 80s when I became a Christian, right? I was fascinated with revelations and Bible prophecy, and the world government's a very interwoven theme in that. And even as a teenager, William, I looked around the world in the mid-80s and I was like, yeah, I think that can happen in the near future. I really do. And fast forward 40 years, and here we are, man. It's all happening
in real life. It's happening. What they've done is these decapitation strikes. They did a decapitation strike here with Charlie Kirk and TPUSA. They tried to put in the new guy. They definitely did it in Ukraine. They did it in Venezuela. They tried to do it in Iran, where they were going to get a new leader. This is the data sets that are there. You can literally click through that, and it'll take you to the website, and it'll just say the page not found, but it's there on the DOJ.
How many millions of files must be in those?
These are the other data sets that go to from 13 to 23. They're just forbidden access. If I had hacking skills, I would try to figure out how to get these files. I don't know how to do it.
Well, if you and I can think about it.
This is saying they exist.
Yeah, if you and I can think about it.
With the URL, sorry.
Yeah, but if you and I can think about it, other people who can get it done.
There's some genius out there. The Chinese say they have all the files. There was also a known infiltration or whatever hack already into the DOJ. So I don't know. It is interesting that they actually have locked sets.
Yeah, well, the government, they're not going to tell us the real deal. Just like the secret societies, they ain't going to tell the plebes the real deal. It's like Satanism. People are like, Satanism is just all about the self, and people believe that and will defend it. And I'm like, y'all don't understand how them secret societies work, because they don't tell their members what's really going on. You think they're going to tell the plebes people? You think they're going to tell us? No. But with that, William, we're coming up on an hour and a half already, my friend.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Just talk with you. Well, I could do another show. We can do code words. We can do the civil litigation. It'll blow your mind, man. It's
I'd
off
love to
the
have it.
charts. Espionage. There's so many different aspects to it when you
Yeah.
parse through it. But his drug investigations.
Yeah.
And sex trafficking, I have a whole file on the sex trafficking, but it's like that's just one
getting old
part
school.
of the nefarious.
Hmm.
Really should be seen as like a Jewish mobster.
Yeah, exactly. And the point of history, I do believe that back in the day when the Italian mob was going strong, the Jewish mob was above them as far as power goes. So, just say it.
Well, if you look
Just
back
say it.
at the very beginning, like Lansky's around, there's a
Yeah,
lot
Meyer
of
Lansky.
Lansky seemed to be the brains and the kind of financial guy,
Yeah,
and the Italians were more muscle. At least back in the
yeah.
day, they got more sophisticated and kind of infiltrated normal businesses and stuff like that. But the Jews, I mean, this is my opinion, operate. They're more clever with their finances, I would say, and a lot less, you know, shoring out business to other people. Like you see it in these files. We're going to get Morcinco. We're going to get this Delta Force guy. We're going to get these type of people. So
Yeah.
it's a different kind where it's like the Italians will send Luigi over and break all your teeth out. These guys don't kind of operate like that. So it's a little more. It's a little something a little different. But it's definitely there is a Jewish mob, and there's an Italian mob. There's an Irish
All
mob.
sorts of mobs. Mobs just criminals working together.
This
So,
should have been the Epstein files or whatever should have been treated as a RICO case. A racketeer influenced corrupt organization that involved all this stuff, and all the people surrounding his inner core had to know what's going on. Like when you see the files and look through it, like his pilot, his helicopter pilot, his groundskeeper, all around. These kids, these are like prepubescent or like pubescent girls, like they're 14 or 15 years old with some creepy old dude. Like this is not, and they're obviously from other countries like Brazil, Eastern Europe. Like they all had to know, so they all should have been deposed.
look at Melania. The connections between. I've heard it was actually Epstein that introduced the two, and I heard some other guy going. But I'm like, yeah, I heard about Epstein a long time ago, and now the narrative changes where it's somebody else. Hey, and then there's the thing is, was Melania stooping old Jeffrey for a year before he passed him on to old Trump? Elite modeling agency.
Right, I think it's Sam Poli, some guy who's around Trump still now. But like these guys are very close. And there's actually a video of Trump with this guy named Jean-Marie, like you talked about Brunel.
Yeah.
This other guy, like they're very early videos from like I think late 80s or early 90s, where Trump is with this guy Jean-Marie, like looking at women like they're a commodity. And Jean-Marie's in trouble in France right now. So he's kind of like the new Brunel. Like they're like, this guy drugged me, abused me. There he is with Trump. So Trump knows these things. He's keeping quiet about all this.
Well, just like Brunel died in prison. And here, I want to leave it with this, right? One last question, just a quick lightning round. Is Epstein dead?
Dead.
Or is he snorting coke on a hooker's tits?
All those pictures of him, are AI that are in Israel. Those are fake. And I think that they intentionally tried to kill him on July 23rd. I just did a show on it, actually, what really happened at the MCC. I think they tried to kill him on July 23rd with this guy, the psychopath.
Yeah.
And then they really killed him on August 10th. And so the other thing is what they told the public isn't what's in the files and what he was saying. He was telling the jailers, like, oh yeah, Tartaglioni's fine. And then the cops come, he goes, this guy's trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me. He keeps telling these other cops, they're trying to kill me. He's trying to kill me. So he wouldn't tell his jailers what he knew, but he would tell these cops who came on site to do the report that they're trying to kill me. And he says over and over and over again, I'm not suicidal. I'm not suicidal. I'm Jewish. I'm a coward. I'm not suicidal. And then they try to hand him a piece of paper that says, you're suicidal, sign it. And he says, I'm not signing it because I'm not suicidal. It's in the files. It's a completely different story than what they told the public, like everything else. And then there's two guys who were in the MCC. One guy, his name is Francis, two mob guys, Elite and Francisi, and they both say there's no way that he committed suicide.
No,
He had to have killed him just through things. And then they showed the public, there's a document from 2025 that shows a link to a camera that doesn't show Jeff's door. So it's almost like the DOJ is misdirecting people, this is my opinion, misdirecting people to a false door when the real camera that was showing Jeff Epstein's cell mysteriously went bad on the 29th.
Oh, just so happens that things like that happen. Cameras don't work on major events. Oklahoma City.
This is in the files. On the night that he disappeared, it was a morning. The two people who worked there, and this is in the files, and there was literally like a lawsuit or some kind of proceeding. They didn't do their rounds from midnight to 5 a.m. And they're supposed to do them at least every half an hour, but certainly at 1 at midnight, at 3, and at 5. And they were proven to be lying on that. So where are they for like 5 or 6 hours? And then she supposedly, this woman, Leontova, or whatever her name, there are reports of like strange financial exchanges going on with her that showed up out of nowhere. Like she's probably making 50, 60K a year. Why does she suddenly have $5,000 extra dollars? Right around the time Jeff goes bye-bye. Wow. They wanted him dead, much like Bruno. So they put him in jail to, in my opinion, to kill him.
Well, dead men tell no tales. And once
then
the investigation's dead.
So the strategy was to kill him and say, Jeff did it all. It wasn't us. He was a pedophile, and that's it, and we're done. And that was what the public, they want you to believe. It's the network is the most important part. It's not the Epstein list. It's not Epstein. It's everybody around him, because he was in the thing with so many rich, powerful people. Black, Gates, Thiel, Musk.
Everybody.
Just everybody. He was just constantly emailing. Like just tons of Bannon, who's coming in the White House, Kushner, who's really kind of like the Nepo consigliere to Trump. Like Trump's blaming the start of the Iran war on his own son-in-law. He literally said that. Like, I talked to Kushner. He said, we do it. We're just going to do a 2-day excursion or whatever. These are crazy days. Anyway, I would leave you with a recommendation. Yes. People who want to see what's really happening at Shakespearean level. Look at Polanski's Macbeth. Polanski is in the files as going to Jeffrey Epstein and hanging out with Woody Allen. And then also Akira Kurosawa's Ran, R-A-N, which is a great movie about how misdirected and crazy ideas from leaders can spiral out of control and lead to desolation and destruction of everyone. Great movie. Ran, R-A-N, check it out. It means chaos.
Say that one more time, because I want to write that down.
Ran, R-A-N. It's like Ran in English, but it's actually
R-A-N.
And it's by Akira Kurosawa, who did The Seventh Samurai and other great movies. I mean,
so it's just Ran?
Yeah, R-A-N. Okay, I'll see if I can just bring it up.
Okay. That's fine.
It's actually, if you like kind of war movies, Shakespearean, and really tragedies, because it ends up in tragedy. It's also about treachery and stuff like that. It has very interesting themes in it that I think are analogous to what's happening today.
Saltzy 100 says it is Rand, and it's a masterpiece.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, William, let's put a bow in this thing, and thank you for coming on. I thoroughly enjoy your work. I thoroughly enjoy talking to you, and I really just dig who you are as a person. So why don't you let everybody know once again where they can find you. Everybody go out there and check out this guy's work. Subscribe to his podcast. He does phenomenal work if you've never heard it. So why don't you let them know where they can do all that good stuff, Mr. William?
Yeah, I got 5 books on Amazon. I'm sending out signed copies a lot. I just actually went to the post office today. You can get signed copies of my book at my website, William Ramsey Investigates. Podcast is William Ramsey Investigates. I've got 3 YouTube channels where you can see things because I kept getting canceled, but I got them back. I have an active Patreon. I'm really on there every day talking to people where you can watch my stuff without any ads. And if you can bring up that website, that'd be great.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful film.
Hold on.
It's actually very well. Obviously, the cinematography is dynamite, but this is it. Like, it's just so good. And I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to tell the story, but it basically is the Japanese retelling of King Lear. But I think we're kind of in a situation of King Lear and Macbeth because, well, I'll just leave it there. I would recommend this film totally. I mean, it's really worth your time.
We could probably do a whole show on just those two movies and comparing them to everything we've just talked about.
100%.
Yeah. Well, once again, thanks for coming on. Everybody out there, thank you for tuning in tonight. If you're listening live, if you're in the chats, y'all are great. If you're listening to this down the road, thank you for listening to the show. If you want to find it, it goes live every Friday on Rumble at the Third Rail with NatureBoy channel, the TNP New Prisoners channel, and AM Wake Up. If you want to listen to the show on the go, my audio podcasts are on all podcast providers, Podbean, Spotify, Apple, Podomatic, you name it. It's out there. And it is a worldwide show. I have listeners and viewers from all over the world. So where you're living at and you're listening to the show, you have a good day, you have a better night, and we'll see you next Friday.